I'd like to start discussing what the dApp developers in the community, what kind of dApps they want to build, and what they need to get going, and how I can support them. And start, talking about, what kind of, cool entrepreneurial applications do they envision that they want to build.
Right. Yeah. And so far we haven't gotten any dApp developers. I did reach out in members and in the dApp developers group here, but in members, 7 people expressed an interest in a work study on the RChain API, and my plan, is basically to get enough people that are really interested in learning and using it to schedule a work study for that purpose, and maybe getting Joshi to give it.
Has anybody spoken to Joshi?
If not, just taking one of Joshi's applications and reviewing it for the hour.
All right.
So that everybody sees, the RChain API in use. Mm-hmm. It knows where the documentation is, blah, blah.
Hey, has anybody spoken to Joshi recently?
Yeah, I speak to him regularly. He didn't give me an answer on whether he would do RChain API work study, but my feeling is he would. I think we have, to be worthwhile, there has to be people there who are really interested in using it.
Yeah. So if Joshi isn't available, is that something you could lead that effort, Jim, from a coding perspective?
I could, but I would strive very hard to find someone else to lead it, because frankly, I think a lot of people are a lot better than I at doing that sort of thing. Hey.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you, Steve.
Yes, nice meeting you, Rich.
We missed you yesterday. I guess Monday's not a good day for you.
Yeah, I'm going to struggle here and there because I'm busy again. I'm afraid, Jim. I've got contract to find and tax issues and securing up my crypto. I've got lots of. So yeah. But I'll try and make some sessions when I can. And I certainly wanted to touch base today so that I could let everyone know I might not be around so much.
Oh, we had a good turnout yesterday.
What was it yesterday, Jim?
We were, reviewing the community contracts and, creating a new community and adding members. And
I'm sorry I missed it. I thought it was tomorrow, actually, because I think we did a session Wednesday last week.
We did a session Wednesday.
Is the video up?
The video is up.
I'll try and catch up. Thank you.
We covered the Make My Locker, and everybody made a locker, and then we hit some problems with, the next, what I planned to do today was, just see if, and I didn't get to announce it. My understanding was that we didn't have anything planned for this week for the dApp developers. Was to see if any dApp developers came on board, find out about their interests and stuff like that, and then go back to live coding with community contracts. But I think, so Ned's here. We're trying to look forward in terms of how we're going to organize the group going forward.
Yeah.
My thinking was that we should probably have a topic and announce it, and find like a gathered interest on people interested in the RChain API, and we'll see if we can actually schedule a day when we're going to do that, and in that.
I'd certainly be interested to see that, and I agree with you, Jim. I like the format that I think it was Ed and Ned proposed a few weeks ago about having a topic and a quick round table. I think the other thing, I think Ed said something. Well, it was two things really. Ed said a couple of pertinent things, I think, in the first session, and I think one was, well, the community's as small as this. People will have individual needs, and if people will forgive me, I'll take a minute or two to explain what I think mine are at the moment. And then secondly, down the line, it will be completely different when maybe we have 1,000 dApp developers. And then I'd add to that, there's a question of if we have 1,000 dApp developers, and I think we need that. So I think there's a question around how the people that are interested, regardless of how much time they've got, start working towards building that. Now, I mean, Jim gives very generously of his time, and he's working on this social network side and community side of things, which is great because that's both an application and giving his time. Joshy, for instance, has put together some very good tutorials that are online, and I'm sure when I get to them, they will help me skill up because I'm way behind the curve. So, but I think we need to be thinking about, as a community, about where and how we can contribute, and that kind of leads into where I think I'm coming from. Partly, well, selfishly, really, for the next 6 months, because I've got to learn something. But ultimately, I'd like to help with the education and with promoting Rolang, and even with going out to my friends. I've got lots of technical friends, and trying to get people interested in RChain. And I think that would potentially be the payback. And then just to finish on me, I said, what do I need as an individual now, coming back to the fact there's order of 10, 15, 20 of us from what I can tell. I think I need to go away and do some study, to be honest. I need to go and learn and then be able to drop in. And I feel I already have that support from Jim and Joshy and the Rolang hours. So I feel quite comfortable. I'm just sorry that I'm probably going to be so slow over the next 6 months before I get anywhere. And the other thing I'm going to try and do is I've touched base independently with Momachov. I think that's Momchalov. I think that's his name. And he's in London, same as me. So we're going to meet up, and he's kindly offered to show me around GitHub. And I hope to extend that and get an R node up and running, start playing with the IDEs, and at the same time, as Ed was discussing last week, look towards wallets and actually being able to trade some of my coins, because obviously if I could make a little bit of money, that would be very nice, and then I'd have more time. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So from my point of view, I think I would probably, having said that to people, I would take a back seat now, so turn off my screen and drop in whenever I can to observe, and just to sort of throw my weight behind what Ned and Ed and Jim were talking about. But I really think the format proposed is good. The question is, how do we actually get it up and running so there is a topic each week, and so that there are some attendees, even if it's not everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, that makes me think of what Dan proposed, the upside down classroom, which I think is more commonly called the flip classroom, where instead of everyone coming together for a lecture, that the you have more like the consensus collab has been run. Everybody watches a video or they read some paper before the session, and then together they do the homework in the class. So it, it's a little bit like collab generally in that, we try to get some work done in the session, but instead of it being homework, in terms of busy work, we try to actually uh, solve problems that members are facing with their applications, putting our heads together, maybe doing some live coding, type sessions as well. But I think, if we had a session where we say, well, everybody watch this video and then come together and then we're going to try to do something, would also be a good theme for
Jim, hey Jim, I'd like to take that one step further. That's a great start. I'd like to say, watch the video and do this exercise so they actually have some code snippets that they're bringing. And then, we used to do that with Joshy's office hours. It was really effective,
Right.
I remember Gary came with a whole bunch of code one day, and we all learned so much from going through the code. And the issue with that is we need somebody who's more expert than all of us beginners. Because we can hash our way through it, but it's always great if we have that one person who really knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, that was that definitely happens where we have the blind leading the blind. But we learn problem solving techniques.
True.
In terms of researching, doing the right Googles or whatever to get answers to problems.
Yeah. So Jim, maybe do you want to look over those tutorials that Joshy has and see if there's one more suitable for us doing a deep dive into?
Well, I basically I think I think any of them would probably be good. What I was specifically thinking of was one that introduces the RChain API, where now I don't know if that's not exactly a tutorial. It's what is sample applications, but I guess that's so. There's both things. There's the tutorials and there's the sample applications.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay, and the other thing that has occurred to me is that the dApp developers group, it represents a part of the developer stakeholder group, which what we sort of want to work to is a multi-stakeholder governance where what I'm envisioning is that the members of these stakeholder groups could vote on issues. Could be through the liquid democracy process, whatever, and they can organize to have representatives on the committees and in the board that represent their interests as part of the self-emergent governance structure that we design for the cooperative. So I see in part a role for the dApp developer group that's I hate to say political, but that stands up for the interests of the dApp developers in the co-op And I see that tying in with the RChain improvement process and perhaps getting people out of the dApp developer group to participate and man the RChain improvement process. I think that some subset of the dApp developers might, take action on behalf of the developers in the co-op. I don't know how you feel about that, Ned.
I think it's a great idea. So it'd be interesting to see how the whole governance model plays out.
Now, to some extent, if we're going to be like a working group, we probably should have some kind of charter or something. I mean, whether it's officially approved by the board or not, it doesn't matter, but at least, something that kind of defines us as, a stakeholder group. And I guess, that includes, what kind of engagement is required for someone to be an active voting member when it comes to, I hate to say, almost don't want to say voting, collecting sentiment on issues of people who are cooperating in the dApp developers group. I don't know if I was clear on that, but
Yeah,
I think you were, Jim. I think,
yeah.
it's very clear.
One of the issues that came up in the governance meeting this morning was, I guess Nutsucker was concerned about the lack of representation of rock holders. Considering that a member pays $20 a month, or $20 a year, and has vote, can control it, whereas people that have invested thousands of dollars, just have one vote, so to speak. And I was suggesting a stakeholders group for rock holders, where there's one vote, one rock, and at the same time, the membership requirement that members participate economically with co-op, or I have to go back to the member agreement to see exactly how it's worded, but to be a member, you've made an agree to be a participant, and we could require some degree of participation or cooperation in the cooperative in order for someone to be a member, a voting member in good standing. So that the $20, and I guess this isn't really related to this group, but the idea comes forward that if we want to get accurate sentiment from developers, we may have some process for maybe attesting that this person is a developer. I mean, he's shown some work in a work study, or we know that he's doing some development work, and he's basically given voting access to the dApp developer community, voting community. So that, he has the right to vote, he can choose a delegate, If he doesn't vote, perhaps somebody represent him. But that's the.
I'd say a couple of things on that, Jim. I certainly like the sentiment, and I take your point. Not all co-op members are really equal, as it were, in terms of contribution, in terms of monetary investment, etc. And maybe the governance structure should acknowledge that, or maybe it shouldn't. I mean, it's a debate to be had, right? And
Well,
personally,
here's the thing: is that in order to make deliberated decisions, the sentiment from all stakeholders groups should be considered.
mhm,
Whether or not they have any official power is something else.
agreed.
Okay?
Well, the point I was trying to get to was that from a personal viewpoint, I'd rather remain apolitical for the moment. But I think both what you're saying and what Greg said in the RChain debrief just last week actually chimes together, which is we know whatever we do won't be perfect initially, but we need to do something. So, for example, I'm very much on board with building the community contract project that you've got. I don't know what time and skill I will have to offer to that. That time will tell. But I like the idea of being on board with that, and leaving coming back to the political bit and passing back to you yourself and maybe other guys who've been around longer at the end. But if we need a dApp charter, I think part of that charter should be about trying to, like you said at the start, actively encourage participation, solving of problems, and building of tools. I think Ed's working on a wallet. You're working on these community contracts. There's nothing, regardless of the rights or wrongs of liquid democracy, there's nothing wrong at all, in my view, in building that, because it's something, and something can always evolve and change. And I like the idea of building some community tools as well as building some tooling that the RChain will clearly need. And I'll pass back to you guys, but I think the charter could also include a political dimension, but I'd rather stay away from the detail on myself because I think I'm new to the community. So it could include that, but it should also include the types of dApps that we're trying to promote.
Yeah, I don't like the word, I don't like using the word political at all here. I mean,
sorry.
The community self-organizing and the group of developers organizing for their own benefit in the cooperative, like
Sorry, no, I get you.
Supporting the RChain improvement process would be an example. Okay, and clearly they have a stake in it. They would have interest in it. As it stands now, everybody's throwing up their hands and saying, "Well, we don't have the resources to really do, the RChain improvement process. We have all these roles defined, and ultimately, what we want to do is we want to get people to stand up and say, okay, I'll take care of this task, and we'll get all these roles filled, and so that the process of the RChain improvement becomes operationalized." Okay.
Yeah.
People only have a couple hours a week to devote to this, and it doesn't do a lot, but at least it's alive and moving. At least it's incubating, at least.
Well, I'm certainly keen to follow your lead, learn in that direction with what you're working on as my case study. And if, when I'm good enough and I've got some time, I would happily contribute to that endeavor. As I've said before, despite the fact that at the moment my time's looking very limited and I think I need to go back to basics. Thanks.
Ed or AD, anything you guys want to contribute?
I'm kind of multitasking here. I've got to do some other things. So, no, but I've been tuning in. The only other thing that hasn't been mentioned, it'd be great to see demos of RSong and what they are have integrated, which I haven't seen an update in maybe 2 or 2.5 months. So I don't know what's been done recently, but what's of interest in particular to me is how RSong is intending on integrating, I don't know if it's going to be a token or rev credits, and just understanding their intentions there, regardless of whether they're implemented yet. And then same thing with RCat, which I understand is a subset of the acquisition part of RSong that may be beneficial to others if they understood it, both the upload and the download portions of RCat. So that's my only other thoughts that haven't been mentioned.
Yeah, we could schedule a demo. We could schedule a demo with you and Fabian and go over what we did for the artist intake piece.
Yeah, not just me, but others too. I mean, it could be a record. It could be a demo on the Wednesday Hangout or a recording and just uploaded. Doesn't need to be scheduled with me per se.
Yeah, it's not integrated with the blockchain, the piece that we did.
Okay.
And that's
yeah.
Due to lack of Kayvon's time.
Okay, got it.
So it's a React Node.js application right now.
Yeah, but also just the intentions are interesting. In Discord, RCat was spoken about as if it's going to be a sort of a standard framework, a quasi project, or a quasi product, or an accelerator for dApp developers. And I'm just curious what that's going to look like over time.
We've done no work on that RCat system.
Okay.
The entirety of the RSong infrastructure is on GitHub, right? And people can go look at it. I mean, it's been up there since Berlin.
Yeah, I've done that in the past. I just have lost track the last few months.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, ultimately, we'd like to get a tech writer in and actually flesh it out and write some great docs and examples.
Got it.
Somebody earlier mentioned, financial resources to do that. So
I can relate.
Yeah. So that's.
I don't know if there's videos or anything that people could review. We could do a sort of a upside down classroom type thing where people watch videos and then they come in and we do some kind of code review. Of course, it would be good, we would need to have somebody who was familiar with the code to do that. I think looking at the code, the RSong specific stuff should be pretty easy to pick out. Where you plug in your assets, whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. But,
I think it is relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
The other, well, maybe we could enlist Ed a little bit, because I think the other hurdle is that the ingestion pieces are written in Scala.
Well, I don't have bandwidth for that, and Kayvon is probably 10 times better Scala developer than I am.
Okay.
But what I'm hoping is that part of that if not the precise code itself, at least the RCAT approach, whether it's written in another language or not, can also be used by other dApps that want to upload content of some sort beyond the Rev transactions, I mean.
Absolutely.
And I guess here again, to some extent, we have a similar situation. Trying to collect enough people interested in learning about the RChain API to put together a work study. I think we would have to do the same thing with RCAT to a certain extent. And
is there an issue of specialization cropping up here? In that it's almost necessary for these work groups to get anything done, or there just aren't enough of us at the moment to specialise. Or it seems to me it's a bit of a catch-22. Anybody, any thoughts?
What do you mean by specialized? Can you clarify that?
I was meaning almost, these 4 developers pick that dApp to look at or work on. These 4, so maybe four of us go with Jim and look at the community contracts and try and build out the liquid democracy app. 4 of us go and look at RCAT and do something with that. And then we come back together and share, and that way maybe you get more momentum. I don't know. I was just throwing it out there as an idea. There's not a lot of us to go that route with at the moment, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I don't know how many current dApp developers we have at the moment to do that.
I mean, I would say I'm nowhere near being a dApp developer because I just don't know enough. But I'm happy to join whichever group, and I think it might make sense to stick with the community contract that I've started going through with Jim, and focus on that. In many ways, as a data guy, I'm quite interested in storage and R space and things like that. But I just think, I can learn Rowline by getting stuck into community contracts, and maybe it's better that I stick with that, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's better I do a bit of everything. But I think maybe it's something we as a dApp group need to, well, maybe it's each to their own, but maybe we need a position on that will emerge.
A couple thoughts I've been having in all the discussion. So, we talk about what are some of the topics that we can bring up during the dApp. An area that I would be interested in would be to get a better handle on the full stack. So, Rolang and RChain, that's going to be the back end. That's going to be the machine. So now in the full stack, you've got a front end, whether it's web-based or device-based, and what are some of the tools out there that people are using, to create those front ends, and then the middle end that's going to connect the two. So I'm here in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, just down the road from where Jim is. We have a community called Block Spaces. So I'm fortunate enough to attend these meetups where they're blockchain related, and I get exposed to different technologies. So just that exposure to what's out there, on the front end, there's a new application called Ionic. So if you're wanting to develop that front end using Ionic, you can create a web application, but you can leverage that web application into making an iPhone, iOS, and also an Android app. So I wasn't even aware that technology had advanced to that degree. You kind of give up certain things, a few features and maybe a little bit of speed, but it's negligible. So, and Ionic works with Angular, which is, it's a application for making web applications, but it can also work with React and some of the others. And it's interesting, when I was in the discussion, React as a web application development tool is very popular on the West Coast of the United States, and Angular is popular on the East Coast. Now, how that happened or how accurate that is, I don't know. And in other parts of the world, I'd be curious to see, who's using. People tend to gravitate to certain camps, but so I see this this time for dApp development as technology driven discussions. We have a lot of discussions, times set aside during the week for the governance issues and various topics like that. But I think if we can kind of set agendas for this time to be more technical oriented. And in regards to the second point regarding this, the technical governance, we had brought up the idea of a charter for a dApp committee, but I think in that vein, in that thought of governance, I think there should be more of a broader technical committee, and then within that technical committee, you could have a representation of the dApps, the node validation, and other components within it. I think it's maybe too early to start segmenting off some of these technical aspects at this point in time. That's not to say in the future it may be more appropriate, but I think at least at this stage, since we're the few and the mighty, but yeah, it's so and we can even have discussions on Rolang, but during the course of the week, there's plenty of opportunity for Rolang office hours. So but anyways, the full stack and the API and all things related to dApp development, I think that would be we have to kind of work through what the agendas would be for this hour. So anyways, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think one thing that's holding people back, and I talked privately with some of the people interested in the API, and I guess one of the common threads I see already is that a lot of the people that would like to get into dApp development are not very strong, for example, in JavaScript. And whether you use Angular or React or whatever, basic JavaScript is a requirement. And maybe we need to organize work studies on basic JavaScript.
There you go. So it's okay. So we kind of have what's the goal in mind, and what are all the components that you need, the skill sets in order to get there. So you JavaScript. So that's and what by learning certain aspects of JavaScript, where does that get you? What does that move you towards? What goal? So I think those are part of the discussions. At least understanding what this architecture is, and that's, I think, even just starting from that basic foundation is just general the architecture. What are all the components you need? What are the language syntaxes and the skill sets you need in order to create something? So those types of discussions I think are helpful. We're not necessarily getting down into the weeds of code review or something, but it still contributes value in that general knowledge base of you're wanting to build something, and it's everything is modular, and what are all these components that need to come together in order for you to create this thing, this end goal that you're getting towards. So yeah, good point, Jim.
I think that's very well said, and I don't know everybody's background, but I suspect I'm at the bottom end of this. And I always think in IT, whenever you're learning something new, it's about complete subsets of knowledge. That so you might not know all of JavaScript, but the little bit of JavaScript that you're learning, it's really important to thoroughly understand it if you're going to become a good blockchain developer. So it's almost what's the minimally sufficient subset of JavaScript and the minimally sufficient subset of standing up a Node.js.
Exactly. I equated, you want to go to Spain and you for a vacation, and in preparation for your trip to Spain, you think, hey, maybe it's a good idea that I pick up a few words so I can order off the menu and ask where the bathroom is. Now you don't need to learn the Spanish language. You just need to know what you need to know in order to to get by. So there's a difference between that comprehensive knowledge learning and just knowing what you need to get to what it is that you want to do. And another point is, I think with those of us on the call and those of us coming in the future, getting this familiarity with each one of us as far as their background, technical expertise, or lack of technical expertise, or what areas that people have strengths in. So for instance, we can start with me. I don't have a strong technical expertise in coding. So I took basic in high school and Fortran in college, and I haven't done any programming, in 30 years. But I, working for the phone company, I've always been around the technology and in a technical capacity. But I haven't actually been in there writing code myself. Now, over the years, one thing other skill sets that I've acquired that that I have come in handy are learning the Adobe suites of Adobe InDesign and Photoshop and those types of things, which they're more marketing related. But when I think of architecture, you've got the back end, you've got the front end, and in the front end, it's that user interface. It's that graphical interface that's going to engage with that user. So in that capacity, graphics and design, those elements become important. So it's you may not think you have a skill set that's of value, but when you dig a little deeper and you think more broadly, you go, wow, that particular skill set that you didn't think was going to be important, all of a sudden it's like, I want to talk to you and understand what it is that because I'm trying to do this one little thing over here and I'm stuck. But talking to you, you may be that bridge to help me get a little further or figure out where I need to go. So now I'm moving again. And to illustrate that point is each Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time zone time, I sit in on the developers session for all the developers. It's developer stand up, all the software developers who are building RChain. So I've been sitting in for maybe a month or two now. So I went from not knowing anybody on the call, and when I said I sit in on the call, I'm just sitting there listening. I've got my video off, my mic is on mute, and I just sit there and listen. But I'm starting to understand who these people are, and what portion of the project they're working on. And then I start to understand what is it, their skill sets, why is it that they're working on that piece, are they is it for instance Dominic, he's working on Pavel, for instance, he's working on the communication aspect. And when speaking, the comm events and all the connections between for the node communication. And I get a sense of what he needs to know in order to get his job done. And so you have that communication. Pavel and Sebastian, they're working on the communications. So they have if you ask them Rolang questions, they're going to say, hey, I don't know anything about Rolang. But if you talk about TCP and GRCP and some of the other communications protocols, hey, they can answer those questions. But Arthur Goway, he's the RChain expert. He's creating all these fancy Rolang terms. Now, he doesn't know about communication protocols, but you ask him a question about Rolang, he's your guy. So that familiarity, it gets cultivated over time. So that could be a component of these sessions, as when we engage with one another, understanding our background, who has strengths in what areas, and collectively we'll be able to move forward. So Ed, don't you have sort of a background in architecture?
Well, I picked it up. So yeah, I co-authored the RChain architecture document, and I've architected some things around the wallet that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And just to address some of the comments you made earlier, is I think what would be very good is to make some great diagrams initially about the different architectures that are on top of RChain, if you will. So everything RChain, from an interface perspective, you could think of there's being two types of interfaces. There's a command line interface, which some people have used for the repo, for example. I think RChain.cloud, I think, is built on the command line interface. And then there is there's a couple gRPC or TCP kind of interfaces, but the main one is gRPC. And then on top of that, there can be a couple of different architectures built, including RChain API, or a client talking to that gRPC more, if you will, natively, such as what RSong acquisition does, or what the Dig wallet does. So then on top of that, there's all kinds of choices in terms of client architecture. The sky's your limit, but you could say that there are some more mainstream ones like Angular and React, for example. I think also what's going to become more important over time is sort of what dApp developers don't want to have to recreate themselves. And in the Ethereum world, that's transaction signing and Rev transactions. And so in the Ethereum world, they're using MetaMask a lot. So that the equivalent of that is RChain so far. But someone else could build a Chrome extension, for example.
Ed, could I ask two specific questions?
Sure.
GPRC, I think I've heard mentioned a lot. What's that? And also RChain, is that the signing of deployed code, or what is RChain?
Yeah, so gRPC originally stood for Google Remote Procedure Call. That was the standard that came out of Google using protobufs as the message declaration, if you will. So they're strongly typed binary messages over RPC, and that's in contrast to JSON type of interfaces.
In contrast, in the sense of, I get it. JSON's not strongly typed in a way.
Right. It's all strings.
I know what it is. Set based. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's also different there's a different client parsing, to put it mildly, required to deal with gRPC versus JSON. And so just even the education portion of what I'm saying, getting that more well known is important as new developers come on board. RChain is a project that Joshi and Dan Connolly worked on, and it's a Chrome extension built on top of RChain API, and it's similar.
Way off now.
It's similar to a lightweight MetaMask.
Don't know what MetaMask is, or can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah, so MetaMask is a project out of Ethereum's Consensus Labs, or whatever they're called. It's a Chrome extension, and it also recently there's a I think it's Android version of MetaMask. But as a Chrome extension, what it does is expose a protocol called Web3 that allows a web app to talk to that Chrome extension and say, for example, hey, I want to use Ethereum account 123. And then MetaMask wakes up and says, okay, sign into MetaMask. And then the app is then using that account. And then later it'll say, I want to sign a transaction for this account. And talks to MetaMask, and MetaMask prompts the user, do you want to sign this transaction? And then I think there's a choice, either MetaMask can broadcast that transaction to the Ethereum blockchain, or the app can. And so that's a really popular, common pattern in the Ethereum ecosystem that would be helpful to have in the RChain ecosystem. Does that help?
Yes, and a couple of general follow-on points from that is, on the one hand, I'm quite happy, and I probably could commit to doing this, but my diagram probably wouldn't be as good as yours, right? But I think at some point we need to start diagramming this, and certainly something I intend to start doing is trying to draw that up for myself, and I'll probably get it wrong. But we're going to have a lot of novice developers like me on this aspect, and we're not going to have that many like you, so you haven't the bandwidth to draw it up. Now my point is that in a way, a drawing of mine that's wrong is better than no drawing at all. So I don't, because then it's concrete, it can be criticized, it can be improved quite quickly. And I don't know if we can start gathering such artifacts. And then the second comment generally I wanted to make was picking up on what Steve said, which is, in a way, it's exactly what I'm doing with Momichov. I've not got a web background, as you guys know, but I have got a strong maths background. And I think I'm making reasonably rapid progress towards Rolang. I mean, Jim might disagree, he's had to be very patient. But I feel that's going quite well, certainly much better than being a dApp developer is going to go for me. So I'm meeting with Momichov in London because we happen to both be based in London. He's going to show me GitHub, and I'm hoping eventually he might help me stand up an Arno and explain some of these concepts. I'm going to go through some of the maths notation and make him a bit more familiar. And what I'm wondering is, I doubt anyone wants to give their address away to people they don't know meeting through the community, but I'd certainly sign up to say I'm in London and I'd be happy to do a meetup somewhere. And I'm wondering whether, in addition to having this excellent cross-the-world get-together, we could encourage that sort of local community behavior and use meetup.com in order to slowly grow the dApp community, as it were, where people help each other. Because I'm quite certain in an hour I'm not going to learn how to stand up a Node.js and learn the appropriate JavaScript and everything else. But in a 5-hour enjoyable coffee with Momichov, I might, and vice versa on the math side. So just throwing it out there as a thought of how to, maybe we could have a little database or something where people say, I'm in this area, and then you can have a meetup group. I don't know if the community could help organise that. on whether it's a good or bad idea. So I'll just throw it out there.
That's a great idea. So I just want to say we have 3 minutes left. But I think some of those documents may already exist. I don't know if Jim knows, but I've just heard that initiative taken a couple times, like where are the members, where are they located? And then Discord, I know Discord may not be perfect, but it's certainly a way for members to talk. And are you part of the Collab Discord channel?
I am, and it's kind of where I think I need to sort of go quiet for a bit and go away and have a look around, really, find time to do it. That said, I love these sessions. It's a nice way to learn, isn't it? It's a new experience for me, and I'm enjoying it.
So here's a couple thoughts. So when we talk about a group, or as Jim says, a community, what I can do, in a sense, we need to figure out how to organize ourselves and market that we exist. So what we can do is within Discord, I'll create a group chat for dApp developers. So I'll make a note of everybody who's on the call, and then we'll use that as a vehicle of communication. So everyone, we're all familiar with Discord. We're usually in Discord for communication.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll use that group chat for the dApp developers. We have to figure out what we want to call ourselves as a means of communication. And then and then the other point is for the graphics. So perhaps we can collectively identify what graphics are out there already. So for instance, I think of Joshy's Rolang graphic that he's created, which was pretty sharp. And then he created something for explaining what COM events are. So those are two graphics. If we could have a central repository for these graphics that we can go to as for our dApp community. And then for architecture, as Ed pointed out, what we can do collectively is start to collect our thoughts as far as what's the first graphic that we want to create for ourselves that we would find that doesn't exist already, that would be of value, whether it's architecture related or what currently exists that dApp developers don't have to create. So if we collect those artifacts, what I can do is, since I'm familiar with Adobe InDesign, I'll go and I'll create that graphic of that pretty sheet of paper that people can pull up and press it, and Adobe comes up, and now you've got a nice graphic interface that's pictures that you can just look at and understand it. So those types of things I think will go a long way. So for organizing who we are, getting kind of the word out, and then getting kind of building our knowledge base of what tools we have at our disposal. So how does everyone feel about some of those points?
I would say, we've been trying to gather people into the dApp developers channel in the collab, and haven't been very successful. So I'm not sure starting another group at this point.
Well, it's see, Jim, the big part of it is being active. So if we have a dApp, so here, let me go into the collab.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but it's top of the hour, and I actually have another meeting I have to run to.
Okay.
So it's been great, and I'll look to that channel, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. See you,
Ned.
Ned. It's the participation. You can have a channel, but if no one is engaging, it doesn't. How
does creating yet another server or mail group?
Well, this is direct message. So it's a direct message with, so we've got just those of us on the call receive the message. I can't say that it's the perfect way, but it's an alternative.
Yeah, we can engage others better I think if we use the channel, the dApp developers channel, and I guess if the difference is that people are notified of direct messages, that we tag each other um, uh, in the channel when we want to uh, key certain people into something that's put in there. Now I've put some things in there. I didn't
I found tag. Oh, hello. I found tagging go well for me, Jim. When you've tagged me or Josh has tagged me, it is a bit like getting a direct message.
I guess I didn't say here, but during this meeting, I put in some things that I thought would be interesting. There's this video on the dApp aspirations from last year where people talk about what they're doing with it. That might be a good thing for people to see. There's the RChain proxy, which actually seems like this is a Roland proxy that interfaces with our node. And then here's one of those diagrams.
Yeah, exactly.
Which could be, seems to me that this proxy could be used independently for a dApp developer who doesn't want to know anything about anything. If we could set up a node with the proxy so that the app would just talk HTTP, go through the proxy to control our node. As an example, it's something that we could look into perhaps or at some point. And then of course we have the RChain API, which I think has excellent, I'll just click on it here. Has excellent documentation at this point. Now,
Yeah, this is actually quite impressive how Dan documents.
yeah, I mean, this is
Looks good.
a nice quick start here. And then you go into documents here. Okay, you've got a complete outline here of all of the things you might want to know about. And some of these links didn't work. They don't know. They all work. Okay, it's extensive, really extensive documentation that, as far as I know, didn't exist, when we were using it a year ago, but it seems today to be very well documented. And while I have the screen share here, let me just show for Rich's sake. That you have a dApp like this training app, Ether Delta, and let's say I want to sell some rock. Let's see, I've got 155 rocks on Ether Delta in this account, whatever it is. If I open my MetaMask, which we were talking about before, you can see that I have the RChain active this account open. Huh. Now that doesn't make sense because we have 66,000 rock here, and they're not showing up here, which doesn't make sense. But using the Web3 API, it I can use this web-based wallet, which is a plugin for Chrome, to do transactions against an application here, or to send and receive tokens or similarly, we have a RChain plugin for Chrome. Hello.
Yeah, you might need to refresh EtherDelta to pick up the right account. It's probably on a previous account.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to go into. I'm not going into depth here. I just wanted to.
All right.
That's all really useful for me, Jim. Thanks.
I think it was glazing over a little bit. Didn't know what we were talking about here, but this just allows us to sign messages here, and I guess I have to remember my password. Well, it didn't sign it, but that's okay.
The bad password at the bottom.
You get the idea.
Okay.
It's a way of interfacing to the blockchain securely. And the main point of these apps is that your private keys don't go off your computer. You don't have to type your private key into some third-party service.
Because you pre-signed, yeah.
You steal all your money.
Should be useful. So, I mean, that was massively useful, and in a way, I feel massively privileged to have joined at a time when you guys can send me in the right direction as an individual. But I guess a question for me, I'm almost a perfect case study when it comes to this. This is someone who's genuinely interested but doesn't know what they're doing. How do you enable them? And I kind of feel now I can see that I could go and install the plugins. I could play with them, see what they do. I can go to what I think is GitHub. I can find where in GitHub, maybe on Discord. So in some ways, what you're showing me is that everything I need is already there if I just put in a bit of effort, I think.
And you could, you'll learn the lay of the land pretty much as you go along. If you're looking at the
GitHub,
RChain API here in the RChain community, you say, oh, well, that's good. What else is in the RChain community? So you can click on the RChain community here, and you can see the special meeting stuff is there, the RChain API, the RChain.cloud was a Rolang interpreter that runs on the web.
The gRPC thing. So I mean, this is fantastic. I think I've used the word overwhelmed. I could use the word overawed as well. I've been feeling that a lot, and of course I've got pretty harsh time constraints, and I'm thinking I won't be the only person coming to RChain in this position. So I guess the way I was trying to not get too frightened and to limit myself was to sort of think about saying, well, let you guys guide me as you have, but then draw a line under it and just go and study, go back over the videos I have done and learn something properly.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that approach? It's probably the approach that it's just the way I learn. It's probably the approach I will take. Or what am I getting to? I guess I'm getting to the question of, I think this is working for me, except I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I might put the brakes on and go back and go through everything that I've seen and try and complete the pictures a bit. And you're showing me where I can find material for that. So I'm kind of feeling quite comfortable, quite welcome. But is there a way of improving further on what I've just described? I think it's pretty good what we've just been through, my initial few weeks, my induction. Whether every developer will get the same experience 6 months down the line, is another question. I guess they'll get more organised material, a nicer roadmap, and less one-to-one tuition, almost by definition.
Yeah, Rich, what are you trying to build ultimately? Do you have a customer problem in mind or a solution in mind?
Not really, Ed, if I'm honest.
No, that's fine.
I'm coming from the maths viewpoint. I want to change the way IT is done, and I want to get back to my maths, which is pretty much what everything Greg has done is built on. So I've bought the PyCalc book. I'm starting to read that. That's where my interest is. I'd love to eventually put educational material together for RChain around it. And I'd love maybe to join or just get back to the maths and make some money on rock. So that's kind of just being totally transparent. And
no, that's cool, because if
that's where I'm coming from. But I'm also an IT developer, and I've seen middleware, and I'm realizing this can take me to the cutting edge of middleware as well. So you know, from a very selfish viewpoint, this is amazing for me, whatever I get out of it. I'm also someone who would want to try and give back. I don't know how yet, really, beyond, I feel my niche is the maths and the education, but if I can get good enough to write a dApp, I'd love to do so. And I think the best way to do it would be to shadow someone like Jim or yourself and help you build things and learn from my mistakes by having the code reviews. So I'd be keen to do that, but my problem is I'm just haven't got much time. So
yeah, my inclination after hearing you, Rich, is to you know, to let Joshy know your intention of the team members, or community members. Joshy is an excellent Rolang educator.
Indeed.
He's got you know, this rolang.org site, and up there there's another person, and I don't know who they are, created RChain.cloud as a way for Rolang developers to experiment and get started.
Thank
Jim
you.
or Steve, do you know who the RChain.cloud developer is?
No, I sure don't.
I forget, but it's been down a lot more than it's been up.
Yeah, so Joshy would know, and I think Joshy either forked the code or created something similar. And so, Rich, that's an example of a fairly small app. I wouldn't quite call it a dApp, but it's an app, you know, that does an online, you know, Rolang evaluator, a REPL. So that'd be an example of something that you and Joshy and perhaps this other developer could get going. It's close to the maths because our Rolang is close to our calculus. And then go from there. That doesn't require a it's already done, but just needs to be made more supportable and, you know, polish the features in it.
So you're suggesting that would be a possible case study that I might be able to relatively quickly take some ownership of.
Yeah.
And actually be contributing.
Yes.
Yet learning at the same time in the area I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And just because it's kind of useful, what was that again?
RChain.cloud.
RChain.cloud. And it's mostly down at the moment. Okay, thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. I'll take that on board.
Hang on, let me check.
Here's it's in the RChain community GitHub here.
Mm-hmm.
And it runs an R node as a Docker image.
Cool.
And then it uses the command line to execute Rolang as part of that. It doesn't use the RChain API.
Okay. That sounds perfect. You know, docking an image, a node, bringing up a node, playing with some Rolang, talk to Joshy, who I have met in his Rolang hours. Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Yeah, Joshy has a version of something similar to RChain.cloud, and it's broken right now. The link is broken. He doesn't have NGIX configured correctly. So at the bottom of this Rolang.org link, there's a try Rolang, and that's been broken for a little while. And I think it's pretty straightforward NGIX configuration or something, but I'm not exactly sure what the issue is.
I think that goes to RChain.cloud, doesn't it?
I think so, or a clone of it.
And that's been down.
But it's a different issue right now.
Jim, are you expecting many people at your work study tomorrow night?
We don't have a regular work study on Wednesday. We have a regular work study on Thursday.
Ah.
And
okay.
But first, live, I'm open for live coding on community contracts on Robot tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. That'd be great. So is that same time as tonight, but tomorrow? So I'll see you there. Steve, it was great to meet you. Sorry to monopolise the end. I'll try and stop monopolising, but I hope I am an example of a really rookie developer, and if I can do this journey, it might help in some ways as well. Thank you.
Steve started out as pretty much a rookie, and I guess, his attending these developer sessions and everything for the last couple of months. I guess it was last Thursday or Friday. He was really coming across as being really knowledgeable, and he impressed us all.
Thank you.
Yeah, eventually it's, you hang in there long enough, it all kind of gets, comes together. So
exactly.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of staying
thanks
the
for
course.
encouragement, guys, and thanks for the time as well. I hope to do right by you in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Rich.
I gotta run. See you guys.
See you, Ed. Have a great day.
So Steve, I don't know if you want to join tomorrow.
Wednesdays are busy days for me, so but and Thursday, that's be a busy day as well. So I may not be able to connect again until Friday. And Friday,
Friday morning we have the consensus and computational calculus. Morning.
Yeah, some of those I may just have to watch the video on, and the videos are tremendous because I can hit rewind, and whenever I hear something I don't understand it, that's the advantage of watching the video is the rewind feature. So,
and you can watch it at 1.5 speed to get through the
right.
It works both ways, right?
Right. But Rich, actually, I was watching a video that you were in a few weeks back, and you had mentioned that you came across the Greg's computational calculi videos from mid last year. I wasn't aware that those existed, and so I dug them up on YouTube, and lo and behold, there's 12 of those, and I've watched the first 3 of them. So
well done, yeah.
There you go. Because you mentioned it, you've helped me already just by
cool.
broadening my horizons. So
thank you.
And it's good to know that you're interested in the mathematics part of it. So if I have any, as I work through the process calculi, if there's something that's of interest and I want to chat with someone about, you'd be a good person to have a conversation with.
Yeah, No worries. That sounds good. Thank
Very
you.
good. Yeah.
So we have to take that back. The RChain.cloud is working today.
Okay.
Okay?
Fantastic.
These are sample contracts. You can run them and get the output down here.
Are we going to see a working Hello World, Jim?
This is Hello World here working.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not familiar with
Compile, bottom right, or
ones here, but it's interesting. They have a lot of things here. Here's the basic wallet. Okay, now these aren't real production contracts, but they demonstrate the concepts. So,
yeah,
you know, we can compile this, and this doesn't look like it actually does anything. I mean, it defines a contract and returns a value, but it doesn't. Okay, and here's the whole. So the output is not. Oh well. But we would have to add code that actually used this wallet below it. Interesting, but it's nice to. It's a good place to. It's good to know it's working. Usually, I just play with I just use Robot to play with Rolang, but it's a nice alternative. You can get something sort of working, and then
cool.
define, you know, and then once
That was our cloud, yeah.
that's RChain.cloud.
RChain. Yeah, got it. I think Ed's dropped it in the chat actually, although clearly for me. But if you're interested, Steve.
Yeah.
I've got it. Okay. Yeah. Once again, thanks, guys. It was interesting. Jim, can I ask you because I kind of felt you were. I know I closed you down a bit, but when you talked about a charter for the group,
Yeah.
I guess you'd be talking about a charter for every group, right? It's not just us. We're just one example. So if you were to hypothesize what that charter might be from the governance angle, what would you say that the dApp charter should be or might be? Or do you not know yet?
Yeah, no, I think, I have some idea, I mean, it basically would define the roles and scope of what we would be doing. And to some extent, I can go back through this video and collect a number of those things into the charter now. We do have examples of the governance committee charter and the executive committee charter, which we can look at in terms of.
Yeah, could you drop them over? I mean, as I say, I'm not wanting to get heavily involved in that direction at the moment, but I totally agree with you that it's important if it's going to happen long term, right? I'm interested in what it is, how it would work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's something to be determined. I mean, ultimately, I'm hoping that we can have, like a working group or a committee, that is, working on the RChain improvement program, and maybe a working group or a committee, whatever, that's working on the RChain, maintaining the RChain API. I mean, right now, nobody's maintaining it.
Yeah, because the support aspect, the dull stuff that no one wants to do, right? It matters. Yeah.
We all need it, so rather than many hands make light work. So if you can get a number of people involved in upkeep and answering questions about it or whatever. Just
Yeah, and I see what you're saying about it's not all about it really doesn't need to be political. It can just be groups of people working together on well-defined things with well-defined roles.
right,
And then things get done. Yeah.
And the political aspect comes in, in that, things that the cooperative does affect developers.
Yeah, of course.
We need to have a unified voice as developers, rather than just people complaining in the members group about things.
Yeah, because it's actually good for RChain, the cooperative as a whole.
Right. People can, they have an issue, a developer issue, they can bring it into the developer group and,
yeah, it's almost
it and, come up with a position that is, well formed so that it can be brought forward to the committees or to the board.
It's kind of centralization through consensus in a way. So unified consensus. I don't know. I'm playing with words, but yeah.
It's decentralization, really. Yeah.
It is absolutely. Yeah.
We're trying to get the board to delegate all their decisions to committees and committees to delegate to the working groups
and yet have a unified view from, genuine sectors where they can connect and talk to each other and resolve their differences and get things done.
Right.
I like it. Who's the little fella?
He's not such a little fellow. Hey, come on up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not, is he? Wow.
Look. No,
What's he called?
Felix.
Hello, Felix. Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry to diverge back into that, everyone, but it's interesting. Thanks.
All right, guys.
All right, Jim, Richard,
Bye-bye.
nice chatting with you guys.
Yeah.